What a joke.
Thanks for coming in. I know it was short notice. Sorry about the wait.
That's fine. We've actually been out planning a fundraiser, haven't we? For the War for Brain Tumour charity.
Good for you.
You can come, if you like. I haven't got a venue yet, but I'm sure we will. We'll sort a venue out, won't we?
Lola. I'm afraid it's not good news. The MRI has detected the tumour is advancing again.
Okay. Some more chemo then, yeah?
We can talk about starting you on a cycle of lomustine chemotherapy. But I must stress, this is purely palliative.
So, well,
Lola, I'm very sorry. But we're talking 6 months at best.
Hey, what's up, people? I'm Jason Derulo, and I'm a judge on Project Icon. 10 rising UK artists take on the realities of the modern-day music industry. Because today, a voice is not enough. Watch the latest episode of Project Icon on BBC iPlayer.
What's gone wrong with our housing? Panorama next on BBC One.
Welcome back to Unicorn Anatomy, my fellow believers. In today's lesson...
Don't learn off randoms. Revise with BBC Bite Size. All course subjects, all levels, all in one place.
In today...
And it's exam board approved.
Bite Size!
Welcome to the land of the warriors. On this island, the only love is the tough kind. 8 struggling Brits.
You're the biggest sore loser I've ever known in my life.
8 fitness warriors. Go, 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 go. Look at that. Only the strongest pair will survive.
Come on then, the boy.
Go hard or go home. Watch all episodes now on BBC iPlayer.
Now on BBC One, Panorama investigates what's gone wrong with our housing.
Tonight on Panorama, what's gone wrong with our housing?
This is your bed. Blimey, that's not very good, is it? So that's next to where you sleep.
A third of us used to live in council homes.
I have a bill of 27,000. I'm a pensioner. I won't be able to pay that bill.
Now we have ageing and run-down properties.
this collapsed and my nan's bed was directly below where it collapsed.
A broken system.
The council pipe is broken.
So that's just pouring down, that's like a shower.
Yeah, it's like a shower.
And greedy landlords cashing in.
Mr. Weevil, sir, I'm Richard Bilton from BBC Panorama. Sir, are you a slum landlord? And should you be a landlord at all?
Tucked away in South London is a housing estate, like thousands across the country. These are the streets and tower blocks that make up the Bampton estate. 290 homes and hundreds of lives.
As a place, it's a nice place to live. It's very mixed. It's got people with money, it's got people with no money, but it's got a bit of a community.
I lived here for 20 years. It might look a bit rubbish at first, but it's nice. Like, it's peaceful. For the most part, the community is nice. You know, when anything does go wrong, we all band together. I mean, that being said, it's just another part of London that's kind of been left.
We are going to look at how this estate ended up the way it is today. Nationally, we have a housing crisis, and what's happened in places like this helps explain why. The Bampton estate was built in the 60s. It was part of a drive to eradicate bad housing.
And there's all this dampness on this wall here. As soon as you touch it, it all crumbles off, you see? And these beams up here, they won't last much longer. There's dry rot.
Slums were demolished, and millions of council homes were built in their place. The idea was to provide decent homes at cheap rents.
It now gives me great pleasure in declaring Logan Towers open.
When you look back, you see the photographs of the tenants moving in. Often there'd be a kind of grand opening ceremony. The local dignitaries would be there. People were moving from slums and they came to Buckingham Palace. By 1980, around a third of the population are living in council homes. So it's a massive part of our history. You know, it affects nearly every family in one way or another.
We're going to take you through the policies that have changed our housing estates. All the homes here were originally owned by the local council, Lewisham. The first big change was in 1980. Margaret Thatcher introduced the right to buy.
This is a very special occasion. It's my great pleasure to hand that over to you as a little token of the occasion.
Ever since, council tenants have been allowed to buy their homes at a discounted price. The policy has been hugely popular.
Come on, you show me this flyer.
The thing is, there was a problem. They were being sold, but not replaced.
It's about 2.8 million homes have been sold through Right to Buy since it started across the UK. That's effectively the largest privatisation we'll have seen. There were lots of good things around Right to Buy, and it's good to encourage people into owner occupation, but ultimately governments over the years haven't invested in regeneration.
As time goes by, if you don't do enough year after year because you don't want to spend the money, then eventually it does catch up with you, and that's what's happened now.
Everybody along here was friends and doors open. You know, it was like a family.
Avril moved into her council house on the Bampton estate in 1971.
Everybody always had a nice show of flowers. Everything was clean. It was a lovely place.
In 1984, she bought it for £15,000, and she lived here with her husband and their children.
So this was your place, and
Yeah.
now it's, look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places.
Gee whiz. How do they get six? How do they get 6 places in there?
She sold it for £85,000 in 1988. Today, it's in the hands of a private landlord. And it's been converted into 6 tiny bedsits. While we're chatting, one of the new residents turns up.
Do you live in here now?
I've got this room at the front.
Is that where you live, in the bathroom?
Well, pretty much.
Where's the bathroom then?
Every room's got their own bathroom. It's like a little shower, toilet, sink.
She lives in your old bathroom?
Oh my God. Well, that's where they fit 6 then, isn't it?
Yeah, every room is somebody's home.
Another resident, who doesn't want to be identified, agrees to show Avril round. He now lives in what used to be her kitchen.
Oh, it just stops here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. This was our kitchen, which was...
Yeah, the toilet there.
Yeah, the whole thing was our kitchen. So there's a little tiny shower in there and a toilet.
Can you recognise any elements of this from when you were here?
No, of course not. It's It's nothing the same, nothing, is there?
The rent for this one room and a shared kitchen is £960 a month, all paid by housing benefit.
You like it here?
No,
No.
But I like it like this one. One kitchen, 6 people.
Yeah.
How can you like it? It's coming up, people, friends knocking window. It's too much, isn't it?
Your old kitchen is this gentleman's home, and he pays 960 quid a month for it.
I think it's disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
What was once a family home is now 6 bedsits and a lucrative business. It's estimated that 40% of the council homes sold in London are now owned by private landlords.
I feel very sad it's ended up like this because this is horrible. You make me cry in a minute. It is horrible.
Is it that upsetting for you to see it?
It was lovely. And now it's not. It's not progress, is it? They say everything's progress, but it's not.
Some of those who bought their old council homes have stayed. In the tower blocks, Anthony and Gloria also took advantage of right to buy. In 2003, they paid £53,000 for their 2-bedroom flat.
You're from Sri Lanka then, are you?
Sri Lanka.
Which part?
Kandy.
And who are all these people?
My daughter, she's going to university.
She's at university?
Yeah. Myself, my wife.
That flagship policy of 40 years ago still has a price today. The Selvarajas own their flat, but the council still owns the building. So when repairs are carried out, Anthony and Gloria have to pay their share.
So you got these new windows. There they are. So when did they come in then?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. So these are brand new?
Brand new.
Anthony and Gloria didn't have a choice. The council replaced the windows and is refurbishing the whole tower block. And now they've got their bill. £27,000.
I was stunned to know where I am going to beg this money.
Where are you? Where are you going to get that money from?
I don't have any relations. No friends can do this one for me. What can I do? No place to run. Only the council can solve this problem.
It's an absolute consequence of right to buy. All building will need maintenance and improvement over a period of decades. We have to have the financial means and ability to finance those improvements. It's a huge burden.
When the final estimate arrived in January, Anthony was recovering from a stroke. And it's now too late to object.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Selvaraja. I'm a leaseholder, but I have a bill of 27,000. I'm a pensioner. I won't be able to pay that bill.
The council says owners were consulted and can pay in interest-free instalments. But if the Selvarajas can't find the cash, they may have to sell their home.
I want to check I'm going to pay that much money. If I know definitely if I can't afford, I have to sell back. So I want to find out both. I want to decide what I'm going to do. I'm very sure I can't pay back the money.
Anthony's determined to stay.
This house, I won't sell it. All my memories are here. I'm 76 old man. My wife is 70. Who am I going to listen?
So, 40 years on, right to buy is still a big issue here because it fragmented the estate between tenant and owner. And then
there's the second big moment that changed the estate, when the council transferred the houses that it still owned to a housing association. The housing association is called L&Q, and it's managed the houses here since 2010. Like most housing associations, L&Q is not for profit and should run the estate in the best interests of tenants.
There was a belief that housing associations, which at that time were seen as kind of fairly locally based, sort of grassroots organisations with the social purpose, would be more flexible and nimble, more responsive, just better managers and providers of social housing.
Across England, housing associations now manage 2.5 million properties. That's 1 million more than local councils.
The idea of the community-based small housing association began to fade, and we now get very big enterprises, 100,000 homes. These don't look like the same kind of small community-based organisations anymore.
L&Q is the second biggest in the country. We spoke to almost all of the 51 L&Q tenants on the estate, and 11 told us they were unhappy with the housing association, but didn't want to appear on camera. Tenants have complained about damp and mould in their homes, about communal lighting that doesn't work, or broken heating systems, general disrepair. They say L&Q simply doesn't fix the problems. One tenant on the estate says they've been complaining to L&Q for 8 years. Their grandson filmed the house for us.
This collapsed and my nan's bed was directly below where it collapsed, very luckily by her feet. She slept at the other end of the bed and it collapsed on her in the early hours of one morning.
2 years after that roof collapsed, the home still hasn't been repaired. And the mould is still there.
This is the bathroom. This one, I'd say less affected, but less affected than the rooms I've been showing. Doesn't mean much.
The Housing Ombudsman, who checks out complaints, has just started an investigation into L&Q's persistent poor performance with damp and mould complaints. But it's not just the tenants. Some of L&Q's neighbours aren't happy either.
Joe, have you noticed you've even got a new plate today?
Yeah. What did it say?
It says Le Petit Prince.
Jen Glynn owns her property, but L&Q owns the one next door. In 2018, when that neighbour got a new roof from the housing association, Jen got a problem. L&Q's work on her neighbour's property blocked off Jen's gutter. With nowhere to go, the water flooded into her home.
But it was happening on both sides.
Right.
I mean, that's the volume of water that was happening when it was raining. Every time there was really heavy rainfall, it would be like between 5 and 7 litres.
Gathering it in the gutter and then coming into the property?
It was backing up onto the roof. There was no place for it to go.
Right, and they just blocked it off?
So the water that would have gone into that downpipe over there had nowhere to go.
Jen lived with the leaks for 3 years.
It really affected our lives to the point where we would be scared to go on holiday because we think, well, if we're on holiday and it rains, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to the flooring?
L&Q has now fixed the gutters and the leak has stopped. But Jen is still dealing with the consequences.
A few months back, this crack appeared at the ceiling board. It's completely detached from the roof. The water has caused it to bow in the middle.
How do you feel about it all?
Honestly, it doesn't make me angry, it just makes me really tired and a bit sad because I've sort of gone through anger now. It just feels a bit relentless.
L&Q told us it has completed almost 2,000 jobs across the estate, including refurbishment to windows, doors, roofs and gutters. And their property survey found all but 2 met the decent homes criteria. On the home with mould problems, L&Q said it has made repeated attempts to carry out repairs but has not been granted access.
I think it's fair to say there have been cases where things have gone wrong and haven't been handled as they should have been, but I think it's really important to say a lot of those issues, whilst not excusing them, do relate back to the lack of investment over the years for repairs and maintenance. And actually, complaints don't necessarily need to be a bad thing as long as the organisation is learning from them.
It was hoped housing associations would improve social housing and build more homes. But government grants have been reduced over the years and far fewer homes have been built.
We brought in the housing associations, but they never did nearly as much house building as did the councils before them. So there was a big deficit there.
The houses on the ground are split between housing association and privately owned. But the mix of the estate is even more complicated because the flats and the tower blocks, they're still run by the council.
Some on the estate have remained council tenants.
Hi, it's Richard from Panorama. Joseph, how are you?
Joe's landlord may be the council, but his problems are just the same.
This is your bed, and blimey, that's not very good, is it? So that's next to where you sleep?
Yeah.
He's rented this flat from Lewisham Council for 26 years.
How long has that been there?
More than 2-3 years.
2-3 years, and have you told the council?
I told them, sir. I told them, Richard, I told them.
He's repainting after a visit from the council's workmen. They've finally come out after 2 years of complaints about mould. They've replaced some plasterboard. But Joe thinks they haven't done enough.
All these places was really mold black.
So the council what, just painted over effectively?
Yes.
Yeah, and you're painting over again?
Again.
Wow.
Joe says the council only did the work after he got a solicitor involved.
Because the council weren't responding, you went to a lawyer.
They said they're going to fight on my behalf to get 1,500. Then from there, they will take their fees.
So the council paid out £1,500 in compensation. Yeah. The majority went to the company, did it, the lawyers, and you got a small amount.
Small amount.
Were you happy with that?
No, at all. It's a shame. So I have to use lawyers before they come and see what really happened to my room.
Last year, Lewisham Council had a budget of £1 million for repairs like this. But almost 750,000 went on legal fees and compensation. So there's not much left to fix problems.
The council pipe is broken.
Right. So that's just pouring down. That's like a shower.
Yeah, it's like a shower.
Remember Anthony and Gloria, the homeowners with the new windows in the tower block? Well, 2 years ago, the council failed to repair a leaking pipe on the floor above them. The leak gradually got worse, and it ended up like this. Water pouring from the 7th floor through the flats below. Anthony and Gloria lived like this for 3 weeks and say they finally left for a hotel when the fire service told them the flat was dangerous.
But if it was their pipe, did they give you any compensation?
No compensation, no money at all. They are taking money from me, for council tax they're taking, and maintenance charge. I am paying for nothing.
What was that like, living like that?
It's a hell.
It's hell?
Hell, yeah. So if I think like that, I will be, still I can cry.
Even now?
Yeah, even now. I'm so stressed.
Lewisham Council apologises for the disruption caused, but says the leak was stopped when it was reported, and that homeowners are able to claim costs via their own insurance. It says it's working to identify properties with damp and mould, and that an additional £1 million will be spent fixing them this year. It wants to ensure public money is being spent on repairs rather than legal fees. So the people here live with a patchwork of policies and problems. But there is another issue. This estate was built to get people away from bad housing, but slum landlords have moved back in. This is Fifield Path, the row of terraces where Avril used to live. Most were sold under right to buy. More than half are now rented out by private landlords. Michael's been living in this room for 5 years.
And you can see where they patched it up, see where it's been leaking. So I had to move the bed forward.
Why?
Because the water's dripping on my head.
How many times have they been round?
To do the roof, about 5 times, different people.
His rent of £910 a month is paid by Housing Benefit, one of 6 tenants in another carved-up former council house. Landlord Joel Zwiebel owns the property with his wife. We think they're getting around £60,000 rent a year from Michael's house alone. And most of that comes from Housing Benefit.
And this isn't the only property the landlord has on this street. He's got 3 more of these former council homes, and they're all divided into 6 little flats.
So, from those 24 tiny bedsits, he's getting around £250,000 a year in rent. One of Mr. Zwiebel's properties is Avril's old council house. Remember, she paid £15,000 for it. Now it's in the hands of a private landlord. The government is paying around 4 times that in Housing Benefit every year for the same property.
I think it just feels absolutely wrong, really morally indefensible to think that hard-earned taxpayer money is going in to subsidise poor quality conditions in very small properties where you've got too many people living in a space when they really should be able to expect to live in a decent home.
This is an absolute disgrace. It was to get rid of those slum landlords that in the first place we created the social housing, the council housing. So the wheel has turned full circle back to where it came from, and this is like the days of Victorian slums of yesteryear.
So Mr. Zwiebel is getting hundreds of thousands of pounds from the taxpayer for housing people in rooms like this. What kind of landlord is he?
Well, Mr. Zwiebel has history. A few years ago, he illegally evicted one of his other tenants. Now, her property was damp and in disrepair, but rather than fixing it, he waited until she went out and got the locks changed.
Landlords and anyone controlling the property have to pass a fit and proper persons test to rent out houses like this. We think Mr. Zwiebel would have found it difficult to pass the test if the council knew about his dodgy past. When we wrote to Mr. Zwiebel, he said there were a number of inaccuracies in our letter, but he wouldn't say what they were and he wouldn't answer our questions. So I went to ask him in person.
Mr. Zwiebel, sir. I'm Richard Bilton from BBC Panorama. We wrote you a letter. Sir, are you a slum landlord? And should you be a landlord at all? Did you tell the council about your illegal eviction? Sir, would you just talk to us about those properties because they seem unfair? Sir, we would like to know how you can charge £1,000 given your track record. That is such a real shame because it would have been great to hear from Mr. Zwiebel. We don't think he told the council about that illegal eviction, and it would have been great to hear from him, to get his side. That was his opportunity. But once again, when it comes to those properties, he chose to say nothing.
Lewisham Council say that they are now investigating Mr. Zwiebel. The government says it's investing £11.5 billion in affordable homes, and that new legislation will force landlords to fix damp and mould. On the land opposite Michael's bedsit, the council is building a block of flats. It's the latest chapter on the Bampton estate.
It's over 55s can move in there.
What difference would it make to your life if you could get in there?
We'll have a lot more room, wouldn't we? And you could have family round or any friends. It'd be brand new, wouldn't it? Can't see the roof leaking. So that'd be ideal, really.
The flats will be offered at what are called affordable rents. They're almost twice as high as council rents. That's because councils don't have enough cash to build cheaper social housing.
Ultimately, we need policy that deals with the short and the long term. We do need to build more social housing. There's just no getting away from that. We need to see a really serious commitment to that, and it needs to be backed by funding from government.
40 years of housing policy have left our estates in crisis.
We're absolutely going backwards because the cost of high rent-offs is far higher than the social rent equivalent, so people are paying more to live in worse conditions.
The system isn't working. The Bampton estate has seen government policies come and go, but people are still living in unfit homes.
You're not the only one confused by rising prices. 5.8 million of us have read What is Inflation on the BBC. For cost of living tips and advice, go to bbc.co.uk.
Well, it's been a month. 2 more months of probation left. How do you feel it's going? Do you want to know how I think it's going? Not very well. At least tried to act like police officers.
So how was your day?
Oh, you know. The usual.
Blue Lights starts tonight at 9 on BBC One and iPlayer.
Relentless and unforgiving, it's going to have us hooked. Get to know our 3 rookies in just half an hour on BBC One after Scam Interceptors.
The UK is being bombarded with scam emails, texts and calls.
Good afternoon, this is the Visa Security Department.
You have been charged £399.
Using your debit card details, they are trying to take 600.
From fraudsters posing as real companies.
We are here to secure your account.
Every year we are losing billions. The authorities can't keep up, so we are fighting back.
We've teamed up with ethical hacker Jim Browning. He works undercover, using his tech skills to hack into scam call centres.
I see these scammers trying to steal money from the most vulnerable people in society. I can't sit and just watch that.
We've set up a purpose-built tech hub to intervene and stop the scams before they happen.
In here, we'll be monitoring scammers that Jim's hacked into. We'll be able to see and hear everything they do. And if we think anyone's about to lose any money, we'll intercept.
Stop what you're doing, sir. I believe you are being scammed.
This is Scam Interceptors.
Coming up, we go head-to-head with the scammers as we try and stop them stealing one woman's life savings.
This person has an amount of money in their bank account that will be very appealing to this scammer.
And we meet a woman left reeling after her brush with the scammers.
So they were seeing my passcode?
Everything you are putting into that phone,
they
are watching,
yeah,
including your bank details.
If you think you would never get caught out by a scam, then think again, because that's exactly what the person in this next film thought too. But when the scammers called and persuaded her they were from one of the biggest companies in the world, she found herself at risk of losing thousands.
In our purpose-built scam hub in BBC HQ in Glasgow, team members